it's coming. You need a new liver, kidney, heart, they'll grow you one in not too long. You'll be able to take tests and know, and I want that app right now where I'm going to go to lunch and I'm like, I should ask an app what I should have for lunch. You need a little more water, and here, have a salad today instead of something else. So as we get healthier, we have to figure out a better way to educate ourselves, educate our children. UCF does such an amazing job. We're surrounded by 500,000 active students in our backyard, but it's not doing enough, right? I meet with employers every day and they tell me that they just can't find the right employee to fill the job that they have open. And I meet with them every day and they all tell me they have jobs that are open. There's no way, even if the UCFs of the world do an amazing job, we're not going to be able to build enough of those around the country and around the world. So education has to change. And today we have a national education advocate and leader with us. Please welcome Lauren Chianese.
All right, thank you so much for having this topic as part of this event. So I was a teacher. I started my career as a teacher back in Los Angeles. I grew up here in Central Florida and taught middle school math and science in South Central Los Angeles. So there is going to be audience participation. So first, I just want to get a sense, and I can see you a little bit, but who here is in the education sector or consider themselves in the education sector? Raise your hands, be proud. Okay, so not a majority, and that's okay. I hope by the end of this that everyone in here will feel like you actually are, and you need to be part of the education sector, because the shift that we're going to have to make is historical. And there really is no more important issue than education right now for the future of our country. And not only is it kind of a moral imperative, because we made a promise to every child in this country that they are going to get a great education, but it's also a social imperative, it's an economic imperative, and more it's becoming a national security imperative too. So hopefully I will convince you that you should be more involved. Okay, so education is changing, we know that, and we have to start getting ready. Jim kind of alluded to it. The workforce of the future is shifting dramatically, and a lot of you already know that. You're here at this tech event because you're in tech, and so you are already the future. But there's still a lot of jobs out there that you can graduate high school. They don't pay well. They don't include health insurance. They make for a very hard life, but you can graduate high school and you can get a job in the service industry that pays enough. And so the pressure isn't quite on yet, but it's going to, and it's going to come fast. Okay, audience participation. So I want all of you to close your eyes, like literally close your eyes, do this, because it helps for you to imagine when your eyes are closed. I'm going to do it too. And think of a classroom. Just maybe it's a classroom that you spent time in high school or elementary. Maybe it's a classroom that you've been in recently as a parent. I want you to imagine what the tables look like. What's the configuration? What's the physical structure? Is it a building with 4 walls? Is it a big room? What's around the room? What's on the walls? What's in front of you? Who's there? Who's next to you? Who are you working with? What kind of materials are you working with? Just, put that all in your head. Okay, open your eyes. So, does it look something like this? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's what my classroom looked like when I was in elementary school. That's what the classroom that I taught in looked like. That's what the classroom that I spent time in when I trained teachers here in Orlando looks like, pretty much, right? Maybe there's some differences, like I had some classrooms that had the green chalkboard. There's a smart board here. That's a big thing. That existed when I was a trainer of teachers in 2002. It's like a just more expensive chalkboard. You've got a projector in here. We don't see a lot of those anymore. You've got a flat screen, not anymore the big tube TVs that were on the cart that moved around, and there was 2 of them and the whole school shared it. There's probably like a computer station. If this is a modern today classroom, there's probably a little computer station with like 5 computers that kids can kind of rotate on. But pretty much looks similar to what we experienced. And we are doing much better at integrating tech. A lot of schools in Orange County, public schools, have recently gone to one-to-one, which means that every child has some sort of device, whether it's a tablet or a laptop, and teachers are being trained on how to use those, but still, that's not enough for what we need. So 21st century skills, that is what we're talking about. We need to shift our system dramatically to make sure that kids have these 21st century skills. So what are these skills? So these are different images of classrooms, and these images really emphasize the types of different skills that kids are going to learn. Jim said it before. Employers are saying that people are graduating and they don't have the skills that they need. The kind of skills that we need in the 21st century that we can already say, we know jobs in 2020 and in 2030 are going to need these skills. And because we can't possibly predict the new types of jobs that are going to be out there, this is our best assessment of the types of skills that are going to enable today's kids to be ready for the future jobs that we can't predict. Those are skills like collaboration. Those are skills like persistence and resilience. Failing, which is not something that we like in the public schools, right? But failing and learning, what do I do next? If I had an idea or if I tried something and that didn't work, what do I do? Right now, there's a right answer and there's a wrong answer. And your goal is to get the right answer. And if you get the wrong answer, you're just wrong. And that's marked off with a red pen. That's not reality. The reality is you get the wrong answer, you go back to the beginning, you start again, you figure out where you messed up, and you keep moving forward until you get the right one. So collaboration, but it also needs to be individualized. There's a picture of a child by himself because some kids are going to need to focus and be on their own sometimes too. But we need to create these options. Here in this picture, you've got a kid using a book. You've got kids on laptops. They're sitting in different spaces. You've got some interacting, working at tables. They're all over the place. That's individualized education. It's going to need to look more like that. You notice something you don't see here? Is a teacher standing in front of the classroom directing learning. That is not how it's going to be anymore. No longer is there this content expert. I have all the knowledge, and I'm going to slowly give it to you over time. I taught a classroom that was for alternative school, so a lot of my students had been out of school for significant amounts of time, most of whom were in juvenile detention centers, teen moms, and they used to say, "Miss, how do you know everything?" Because I would individually address their needs, and I could go back if they were learning about planets, I could go study what they were learning and come back to them and help them. I wasn't someone who stood up and had all the knowledge and delivered it to them. I was someone who sat one-on-one with kids, and I helped them work through the problems they were dealing with at the pace that they needed and the style that they needed. That's going to be the classroom of the future. What else? You've got kids learning in context. So no longer is it content, because content's available everywhere. I want to know something, what do? You get out your phone, you Google it, and you know it, right? That's content. That's where content's going to come from. But context, why does it matter that you know who the 14th president was? It matters because that person made decisions that then impacted, what was happening when the 25th president is here, and it impacts what's happening in our community today. That's why it's important you know those things, not just for this, the pure fact of knowing it. And so you've got to have learning in context. And this is a great example of students actually going to where learning is happening. And that's going to be something else, is breaking down these walls. No longer are you going to have those 4 walls and you sit there for 5 hours a day and you sit in front of the same person. Learning is going to look like little bits and pieces happening in classrooms, sure, but also out of classrooms. And kids are going to be able to have more control of that. And a lot of this is already happening. So, this big doomsday scenario, it is going to be a huge, huge shift for us, and we're not there yet. It is happening in little bits, but it's happening like these are extra things. Like, oh, it's choice time. And now you get to choose what you want to, which tablet or which, system you want to use. Oh, we have one elective, or when you get to 10th grade, you get to take a course where you kind of go off campus. This needs to be the way. not some extra thing. And that's the shift that we're gonna have to make. Okay, so many Titanic analogies. The Titanic was built for a reason. It was trying to get a lot of people across the Atlantic quickly. And our education system is built for the same reason, right? We're trying to get a lot of people from not knowing how to read, not knowing their letters, to graduating high school, ready to go enter into the workforce. And it has to be that big because it's feeding 300,000 kids a day. It's transporting those kids. It's building tons of buildings. It's the second largest employer in our community. But it also makes it really, really slow. It makes it really slow to change that iceberg is the future work environment, and it is really hard for us to move this ship. Another analogy is that, the rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, like it's kind of going down, and I don't necessarily think our system is going down, but we are rearranging deck chairs, and that's not quite enough, right? What I imagine is that we actually have to take the parts of the Titanic and recreate little speedboats that can kind of zoom around whatever issues, the icebergs that we can't even predict. So many analogies, guys. Also, this is kind of leading into my next point. So, 21st century skills, critical that we shift the way that we are teaching, what we are teaching, how we are teaching, where we are teaching. But we also need to make sure that we're teaching everybody. And the Titanic, if you watch the movie, did not have enough lifeboats for everyone. And that's a real analogy, right? Our system right now is not equitable. So not everybody, if you were born in this country and you were born into a low-income family, your opportunity to get a quality education is very low. You may graduate from high school, but you're probably not going to be prepared to get into and through some post-secondary option. And that is a challenge that we have struggled with since the creation of our system. And so it's going to kind of come to this. We're going to hit that iceberg. It's there. We see it. We know it's happening, and we're going to hit it if we do nothing. And so you've got a couple things. Demographics, low birth rates, baby boomers are retiring. The workforce is going to shift dramatically. Also, demographic shift is more of our students are from low-income backgrounds than before. So we actually have a rising poverty rate in this community, not a decreasing one. Automation is going to significantly change the job market. I'll go into some numbers in a second. And then inequality. We have an increase in inequality. And so not only does that mean that people don't get access to opportunity in education, and so they're not ready for the jobs that are out there and the high-paying jobs, but because they're not getting the high-paying jobs, or worse, when this stuff hits, they don't have jobs at all, they're not consumers. So you have this huge dip in consumer power because tons of people don't have jobs that afford them the ability to get, even if housing prices go down, they might not be able to afford that. So this is the kind of doomsday scenario, but the opportunity is that we can actually do things right now, and we have the technology and we have the ability to do it. Today's second graders, the kids sitting in second grade right now, are going to be entering the workforce in 2030. So we really need to start right now. So the shift, I said I was going to talk a little bit more about the automotive shift. You probably know this or have seen this, but a huge shift, historical, like the agricultural revolution to the industrial revolution made a huge dramatic shift in what types of work people did, and a lot of people weren't ready for that, and they struggled. Well, we're going to have as big, if not bigger, of a shift in the workforce when automation hits. So 50% or so of jobs are going to be fully automated by 2030, or not by 2030, sorry. You've got kind of different rates of what they think when this is going to hit, but it's going to hit, and a lot of people are going to have like half of their job automated. So you're going to need fewer people to do that work. So you're just going to have a ton of transition in who is in the workforce. So not only do you have the young kids coming up, the second graders who are going to be entering the workforce in 2030, you've got people in the workforce right now who are going to need to be retrained. And we're going to have to make sure we tackle or take advantage of the opportunity to do this equitably. So this is where we are now in Florida. It says, 2020, they say we need 60% of people with a post-secondary degree. We're not there yet, right? So back to the equity point. We're struggling to meet the needs of today, but the needs of tomorrow are going to be even greater. So we've got to figure out this equity question. This is, what is this, 2014, 16? This shows ED is economically disadvantaged, so not economically disadvantaged is, middle income higher. ED is economically disadvantaged, so that's low income. And 65% of the students in Orange County Public Schools are considered low income. So you can see already the quality of education that children receive is different. This is just not going to cut it. So we really have to take this opportunity. We have to make this shift anyway. We have to take the opportunity to do this better, to make sure that every child is getting a great education. Okay, the last point, lifelong learning. I also kind of think of this as access. So, you've got the second graders who are going to be in the workforce in 2030. What are they going to do when they graduate from high school? The way that they learn should look really different than the way that right now is happening. When you graduate and you either get an AA, 4-year degree, maybe you get some sort of certification in trade, it's just going to look completely different. Plus, we've got that huge group of people who are in the workforce now. They're going to have to be retrained. So what does it look like? Do they go back and get a 2-year degree where they're like showing up with their backpacks to a college campus? These are adults who have families and have obligations. It's going to be really hard for them to take that kind of time. So this is kind of what it looks like. So they do have the backpack, but maybe they don't. Maybe they're at home or learning in different ways. But the fact is, we're going to have to retrain a lot of people, and not only retrain them, but constantly update. Technology is growing and expanding and evolving at exponential rates. And so, something that's relevant one year, you might have to relearn it the next year. So this is everyone is 3D printing was Jim's, Jim's gonna kill me if I don't say it. My Jim's gonna kill me if I don't say it, is unbundling. We have to unbundle degrees because that's just not going to meet the needs. So we have to say, oh, you need to learn graphic design, I'm just making something up. Well, take this 12-week online course. You can learn it, you can get a certification. And so you don't have to get full degrees anymore. You can get little bits of competencies or certifications that then you can go out and apply in the workforce right away. And then you can continue and you can go back and get another one, apply it, go back and get another one, apply it. And so it enables, back to the equity piece, people who can't afford to just take 4 years off and go and get a degree. It enables them to learn something, high skills, get into the workforce, start making money. Maybe their company even helps them pay for that because, paying for all of this is a huge issue too. Oh, so there's, UCF is doing a lot to expand their offerings and really differentiate them. Georgia Tech just came up with a 20-year vision for how they're going to change the way that they're delivering education, because they're seeing enrollment in four-year colleges going down. There's fewer, young people, but also the cost is really out of a lot of people's reach. And so they thought, well, what can we do? One of it is lifelong learning, making it easier to enter and exit the college system, making courses more accessible, more flexible, virtual, shorter, so that people at any age, at any economic spectrum can be involved, but also breaking down the walls so that you can be anywhere and you can learn. You don't have to be on campus. That's not, that's something that's kind of going on now, but that's really going to be the norm and not the exception in the future. And then you've got AI, and this is actually one that I love because, if you're a lifelong learner, how do you know what to do? Or, there's so much to keep up with. How do you figure out what's the next step in my career path? And you can actually use AI to create career mentors for people so that an AI, your AI mentor will say, hey, there's a new course on this, and this really aligns with your career goals and your path. And if you took this course, you could take this promotion, or you could increase your salary by this much. And so using AI, not just in the mentor space and higher education space, but AI at any level to help navigate and answer questions for kids. So I, like I said, I was a teacher, and so I'm going to give you some homework. One, I think that it no longer can it be, well, education, that's something that happens over there, right? Like the 4 or 5 people that raised their hand that said, I'm in education, everybody should raise their hand and say, I'm in education. We really need people to get involved at the state and local level to help drive this and help guide this. And we also need people in the tech community to start creating alternatives, because their system, that Titanic, they don't want to change, and they don't have that economic pressure to change, because as long as there's a child in the seat, the money is going to come in. That's the way our system works. And so there's going to need to be kind of market pressures. And so if people are creating alternatives and disrupting the system from, creating outside opportunities for learning, then the system is going to have to kind of respond faster. So we're going to need that. We're going to need more people in that field. And then revise your own hiring practice. So much I see, the 4-year degree required. I have a friend who doesn't have a 4-year degree, but has so many skills and talents, and every time he sees that on an application, he just doesn't bother. And there's going to be more people who don't have that 4-year degree. So really think for your own hiring practices, why? Why? What is it that you actually need to see in an employee? Is it that they hold some piece of paper that, is a 4-year degree? Or is it that you need certain skills and competencies? And then figure out what those skills and competencies are. And then really think about this question of equity. Because if we don't make sure that the 65% of students in Orange County, or the majority of students from low-income communities across our nation are getting a quality education, we're going to hit this wall when we need more high-skilled, talented workers, and we don't have enough people to fill those jobs. And other countries, although we've been educating more of our population for longer, other countries are starting to do that. And I have a friend who actually works and goes to India and Bangladesh and Cambodia, and all sorts of different countries who haven't educated a lot of their population. She helps them figure out how to do that. And they're going to catch up way fast, because their systems, although they may not have the resources we have, they're more flexible. And so we have to do this. We have to do this now. So that's my homework for you. Go home. One of these things, and it's it's choice, and you can use whatever technology you want to do it. But your involvement is actually really critical, and the time is now. So thank you.